Hello everyone, my name's Chris Oakley and welcome to Videoblog number 2 for the Football Attic. Now first of all, an apology, if you're a visitor to www.thefootballattic.com, you'll know that I did actually record one of these video blogs before. It was quite some time ago, and for that I apologise, although I do have a pretty good excuse in that I was recently found to be relocating from London to New Zealand, so apologies, but I think it's a pretty good excuse. Anyway, hopefully you'll start getting more and more of these video blogs, more regularly at least. If you did listen in and view the last video blog, you'll know that this is basically me choosing at random something from my personal football memorabilia collection and discussing it with you on a short video such as this. Last time around I discussed a part work, a week by week collection called World Cup 90 by Orbis Publishing. This time around I have something a little bit different for you. It's a game and it's called Kickoff. But if you're thinking this is the video game of the same name, well, you're going to be much mistaken, I'm afraid. It's actually a kind of hybrid between a board game and a card game, and here it is. Yes, now some of you, I'm sure, will recognise this. In fact, some of you may have even owned it back in the day. As you can see, it's made by MB Games. MB Games being a very well-known British manufacturer of board games in the 70s and 80s. Actually, I think it's an American company, Milton Bradley. But certainly if you grew up in Britain during the 70s and 80s, you will know all about MB Games. And it comes as no surprise to learn that they actually decided at some point, apparently around about 1981, although I think it might be a year or two earlier than that, to produce a game which coins in on the success of football, to put it short. Indeed, this is it. So, Kickoff. What was Kickoff? What was it all about? As I say, some of you may know this. For those of you that don't, let me explain. We're going to open the lid now of the box, and we'll see what we got inside. First of all, the board element of this board game / card game hybrid. A red back, and here it is. This is the pitch, and as you can see, if I can hold it correctly, it's yes, I think you can see that, can't you? Yes, just about get me in shot. It's a football pitch design, and essentially it's a grid of 18 squares by 12. And as you can see, it's liberally decorated with the flags of many nations of the world. Because as you know, if you've been to a football match in person, one thing you're always guaranteed to see are flags of national countries along the pitch side. Not. But anyway, never mind. I suppose if you're a young player of this game, as indeed I was, then it just all adds to the thrill of the thing, gives it an international flavour, you might say. But anyway, yes, here it is. So the deal is, as in football, that you have a ball, and if I look in the game here it is, a white ball with a flat bottom. Probably the only game that I'm aware of where you had a ball with a flat bottom, but it was imperative because basically you would, if I can keep the board straight, you'd put the ball on the centre spot to start the game. It does roll about a bit, as you can see, it slides more than anything. But you'd put the ball on the centre spot, and you would move the ball up and down the pitch. And the idea, of course, as in football, is to score a goal. How do you do that? How do you move the ball around? Well, for that you need some cards. Luckily I have some here. Here are the cards. Some of these are all kind of face up and face down. I didn't put them back correctly last time around. Anyway, here you go. Lots of cards. And as you'll see if you look through some of these, that they all have a number of repeating features, you might say. Let's take this one, for example. If I just hold that up there, you can see basically we have a picture, a painting, if you will, of an action shot from a football match. That was all very nice. Same colours, same team colours throughout. One team wearing yellow, one team wearing blue. So there's always some kind of picture, an action shot of some sort. Let me get another one for you. Here we are. So you get the idea, different pictures. But the picture actually is the least important aspect of all of this, because essentially the most important bit is the arrow. You would always get an arrow that you can see in the bottom corner here. This one's going from left to right with the number 3 in the middle. Basically what that means is that you can move the ball from left to right on the grid, on the board, 3 spaces. And as you'll see in a moment ago, there are variations on the theme. This one here says 6 spaces ahead basically moving up towards the opposition's goal, and others, as you just saw a moment ago, this one have more complicated passing routes, you might say. So this one sort of says go forward 9 spaces, then to the right 3, and then ahead again 5 spaces. Variations on that. You've got this one here, for instance. This one says 5 across and then 3 up. And so it goes on. I won't bore you with this, but some of them had kind of diagonal moves, and some of them had, say, left to right, right to left, and all that kind of stuff. There were also, occasionally, free kick cards, like this one. And you could play that at any time. You would play this free kick card first, which basically says three spaces forwards and then 3 in any of the directions shown, either diagonally or straight ahead still. And then after that free kick, you could then play a normal card, so you'd kind of get 2 moves at the price of 1. So far, so straightforward, I think you'll agree. Basically, you have to move the ball towards the opposition's goal, and you have to, if you're skillful enough, get the ball, of course, between the posts. Now here you see you've got 4 spaces here which are actually the goal in question. Now if you get the ball upfield and into one of these 4 spaces, you would think you'd scored a goal, but actually that's only half the deal, because once you'd done that, the defending player then had to save the ball if possible, and the way to do that was to produce one of these, a goalkeeper card. And as you can see, in this case, it basically says boot the ball back upfield 9 spaces. So if the defending player had one of these, then the ball would be saved. No goal, even though it has technically gone between the 2 posts. So that was good. Another way of saving a shot and preventing a goal was to defend with a corner card. Now here you see in the corner here, it's got a blue corner flag. Now that was imperative because let's say you'd scored, well, you put the ball between the posts and the opposition player played his corner card or her corner card. What would happen is the ball would then be put on one of the 2 corner squares with the corresponding colour. So in this case it would be blue, so the ball would be put there, and what would happen then is the player who had taken the shot would then have to cut the deck, and if a card was shown at that point with a blue corner flag, that meant it was a goal. The goal stands, and so of course you'd then kick off once again. If it was anything other than that, then that meant the ball had been saved, and so the play would continue as normal. Therein you pretty much have the game of Kickoff in a nutshell. And I actually owned this game, not this particular one that I showed you a moment ago, but this was one I bought on eBay not so long ago. More of which in a moment. But I did actually own the game when I was about, well, I thought it was when I was about 8 or 9 years old, which would date it sort of 1979, 1980. But my research on the web gives us the date of 1981. So, yeah, I presume that's right. I would have been about 10 then in that case. Thing is, it was a good game to play. Basically, you carried on playing until there were only 3 cards left in the deck, and then that would be the end of the first half, and then you'd start again for the second half, and once again, when there's only 3 or less cards left, then that would be the end of the second half, and indeed the end of the game. That's kind of where you finished playing. What I remember is I used to play Kickoff with a friend of mine called Alan Dunn when I was only about 10 years old. Now, I'm not sure if Alan Dunn is watching this video. I think it's probably highly unlikely, but if he is, apologies, Alan. I'm maybe about to embarrass you somewhat here, but we used to play the game together from time to time. But I just remember one thing which was kind of staggering. Even now I find it staggering because it's kind of lodged in my head from 30 years ago. I actually went round to knock for Alan one day and knocked on the door. His mum opened the door and sort of said, "Oh, come in, Chris." She said, "Alan's just in there in the front room. He's just sat at the table there." So I said, "Oh, thank you very much," and made my way in. And there I found Alan playing Kickoff, but he was playing it on his own. Now, first of all, it should be said that according to the box of Kickoff, here we are, it sort of says, where does it say it? I think it's certainly on there. It says it's for people aged 7 to 70 years, which is probably a bit impish of them to say that. But it also says that it's a game for either 2 players or 4, which is fair enough. I would argue that 2v2 isn't such a good way to play the game. I think if it's 1v1, that's absolutely fine. But nowhere does it say you can play this game on your own, and that's for good reason, because of course the whole thing is that both players, you might say, have 8 cards each during the course of the game, and when they play a card, they then pick another one up off of the deck, and then it goes over to the other player to play their turn. But if you're playing on your own and you're playing as both teams, obviously you get to know what cards are on both sets, if that makes sense. You know that one player might have a penalty card. I haven't discussed the penalty card yet. I probably can't find it now because it's probably buried in amongst all these cards. I'll just carry on talking now. Here we go. Penalty card. Can you see that? There we are. Penalty cards. If you get the ball in the penalty area, you can then play that, and then basically the other player has to then provide either a corner card or a goalkeeper card to save it, as discussed before. Anyway, like I was saying, if you're playing as both players, then you know which cards both teams have got. So therefore, there's no kind of tactical advantage to be gained. There's no element of surprise by playing, for instance, a penalty card or a free kick card or something like that. But he was playing not only on his own, but he was also writing down scores as part of a tournament. Yeah, I know. A bit strange behaviour, wouldn't you say? For those of you that have played Subbuteo in your time, like myself, I'm sure you, like me, have at some point decided to make a tournament by playing with a friend of yours, and you kind of write the scores down. Or if you're playing indeed a computer game, you might sort of conjure up some kind of competition or a tournament whereby you kind of draw teams out of the hat and create groups and knockout games and all that. Fine, if you want to kind of document the scores. I did it at the time. But playing a card game on your own as both teams and writing the scores down as if in a tournament, that's a bit disturbed behaviour if you ask me. But anyway, there we are. That's that. And Alan, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but I just feel like the public needs to know about this. It was a bit strange, but actually, fair play to you, Alan, for your admirable approach in embracing this game for what it was, because it was, without doubt, a very good game to play. I mentioned eBay earlier on. If you want to get your own copy of this, then good news is that there are lots of copies around on eBay, certainly on eBay UK. And you can pick them up for as little as £1 or even 99p if you're very lucky. That's before postage and packing, but you won't have to pay a lot for that because, as I say, it's only a small, fairly lightweight box. So if you're looking for a Christmas gift for someone you know who's perhaps got a bit of a penchant for football nostalgia, then you can do far worse than getting yourself a copy of MB Games Kickoff. A cheap and very nice gift that would make, I'm sure. One other final note to mention before I go is that this game was apparently, I didn't know this until very recently, but it was rebranded at some later stage. It was called Gaza, featuring the football of the same name on the front of the box, but it was essentially the same game. So you could also do a search for MB Gaza. I'm not sure if that will get you anywhere. And it was also marketed in various different countries as well. So a bit of research on the web should find you pictures of this box lid, but with different names in different languages across the top. All very amusing. Anyway, there we go. That's the second video blog from me, Chris Oakley, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you used to own Kickoff, or indeed if you'd like to know more about it or talk about it, then do get in touch with either myself or my co-blogger, Rich Johnson. You can do that in several ways. You can drop us an email at admin@thefootballattic.com. You can find us on Twitter @footballattic, or if you go onto Facebook, you can find our page on there, facebook.com/footballattic, and there you'll be able to wallow in football nostalgia in all its manifest forms. Anyway, that's it for now. Until video blog number 3, it's goodbye from me.